Hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, hey, welcome to the Hey Girl, Hey podcast. I'm your host, Kim Miller, and thank you for tuning in to another episode. How is everybody doing? I haven't talked to you guys in a couple of weeks because I have just been dropping interviews and not touching in. So I hope everybody is doing well. I know this year, I'm sure everyone can say that there has been some bumps in the road already. We are halfway through February and we are just pressing through. So I hope you are doing well, and I hope you are overcoming and pushing through whatever obstacles have already shown up this year. But I have been so enjoying my interviews. I hope you guys have as well. I'm getting some great feedback from my guests, and this week will be no different. So I wanted to record. I want to start recording intros anyway when I have an interview. That way I can just kind of touch base and see how everybody's doing, give any updates to my life, and then I'll share my interview guests with you. So this week was a perfect time to do that because I definitely had some technical difficulties. It was my first time recording by myself without my husband, and of course, of all times, something crazy happened, and so we had to work through that. But I think it was great because it forced me to do this intro, which is what I want to do anyway. So yeah, that's what's going on. I am starting the book 12-week year, and I talked about that last year and just had never got around to it. So I'm 4 chapters in and I'm loving that book. So I will probably be doing an episode just kind of sharing and recapping that. I hope to wrap that up well before March. That way, come Q2. Can y'all believe Q2 is next month ending? Like, this year is flying by. But anyway, I plan to implement that for Q2 in terms of goals. So I want to do a whole episode on that because I'm already finding some really, really good nuggets in that book so far. And in the spirit of wellness and holistic wellness, that's a great way to incorporate this year with the podcast. So anyway, I am going to get into my interview. I had my favorite, the beautiful Lashanna Moore on my podcast. And if you have been with me from the beginning, she was one of my first guests, my first year in 2020. So I'm going to make sure I link that episode. If you didn't hear it, go back and listen to that one as well. But I shared this with her on our interview, and my intro got cut off. So Lashanna is my favorite wellness voice right now in the wellness space. I think she does an amazing job at incorporating her faith and just a holistic approach of wellness without it being, y'all know how wellness can be very like earthy, and you got to be almost like a hippie vibe, and you got to be vegan, and it has to look like this. And I always feel like that's not me. And so I didn't always know where I fit into like my own personal wellness journey. And so she has always embodied, to me, what wellness looks like and what we should be striving for. And so she has some amazing content. You're going to hear all about all the things she has going on now and her community that she's building and her Bible study. And I am also going to make sure I share her website because all things Lashanna Moore you can find right on her website. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. And I will see y'all next week. Bye, girls. Bye. Enjoy this episode.
Absolutely. What can you say to the climate of health and wellness? It is people are kind of adding that to just about everything. And again, I love how you speak to that. What do you say to kind of the health and wellness culture right now? How do you kind of speak to that in general?
Wow. Well, as I just mentioned, wellness has really become an ambiguous term. I think within its origin, which was far before our generations, you and I represent 2 generations, even before our generations, wellness had a historical concept of a way of life, a way of being, a way of surviving, and it also contributed to the longevity of early human existence. Now in this age where wellness has traveled from being a medical component, believe it or not, back in the 50s and 60s, there were physicians that wanted their patients to be proactive in their health. So they were advocates of physical activity. They were advocates of nutrition. And then wellness moved into a civil rights movement with the Black Panther Party, who was exercising wellness. They were opening up free clinics, mobile clinics, health fairs. They were attending to the disenfranchised communities, providing food and resources and what we call health screenings now. They were doing that. So it was a movement of wellness, was a movement of resistance for an act of survival. Wellness also went through a period of touching the women's liberal movement, where women were fighting for their voice to be heard. They wanted to move out of domestic roles. They wanted to move into more active roles and become more active citizens of society. So they used their voices for advocating self-care for themselves outside of just being a home provider, a domestic engineer, a wife and a mother. And so each decade and every generation, as wellness has moved, it has now come into the modern era as a form of self-care, but also it has entered the marketing space. It has entered the commercialization space. And because we are a digital culture now, it has really ballooned into more of an ambiguous approach of what it means. So you won't hear two people defining wellness the same. It's also based on a person's kind of worldview. What's my belief system? What is my approach to life? What is my religious belief? What is the way of life that I have framed for myself? What are my rules of life? So I look at all of those different perspectives, and a part of that dictates the way I approach wellness as well. But also I like to consider my approach to wellness being very holistic, which means the entire aspect of my life. I always regard, and if you listen to the podcast, you've heard me say this a million times, that we're an ecosystem. There is not one aspect or one segment of my entire being, not just my limbs, but my entire being that's going to operate in isolation of another part. So when I look at wellness, when I look at living well and what that means to me, how I live it, how I try to teach it, it is a peel back from what the modern era has often framed it to be, which means that it's going to morph, it's going to change, it's going to be reshaped and redesigned by us. That just like science, it is going to require a trial and error. It's going to require that, you may have to tweak your thesis, your hypothesis in this season because wellness looks different now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we frame it that way, I know I just said a whole bunch, y'all.
Yeah,
but if we frame it that way, then we take stigma, labeling, shame, hierarchy out of the picture. And we navigate, we make wellness a vehicle that will navigate and travel with us as we navigate and travel.
That's good. That's deep. I have been kind of stuck in this place of wellness with I know we are both women of faith and the Christian faith. The thing that I always get brought back to is the woman at the well and her experience with Jesus. And so when I think about wellness now, it's like how this woman was seen by Jesus, like how her experience with him made her see herself. So that's been my approach to wellness now. It's not as much as this thing that's like, okay, you got to do this workout or sorry, I don't know what that was, but it's not about these specific kind of benchmarks that I used to think of it as, but it's really like, okay, how does Jesus see me and how does that make me see myself? And that's how I am really working to build a wellness lifestyle around that belief system. But it's hard. It is a rebuilding because it was never that before. Like that was not how it was taught to us, even as it was introduced with this kind of make sure you're going to the spa and make sure you're doing all this. Like that ain't really it either. But those are great, but that's not the essence of it,
Yeah, I agree. I love your reference to the woman of the well. She met the practitioner. She met the great physician. And for those of us who are women of faith, it is a constant reminder and a challenge for us to remember that in the front of all these things, even the wonderful agricultural, herbal, natural elements that God has given us, what we have to remember is that in the forefront of all of that is still the chief physician, which means prayer and Jehovah Rapha still comes first.
Yeah.
And God as guidance and counselor still comes first in terms of how I even approach what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Everything else are gifts, branches on the vine. That are given to us, but that it's an aggressive reminder that we have to have, because we're human beings living in a culture that presents a lot of well-meaning things, a lot of well-intended things, a lot of things under the guise of positivity and help and influence, and so we have to aggressively remember,
Yeah.
you know, that he is at the forefront of it. The woman at the well met the practitioner, and listen,
Yes.
all became well with her. I love that you referenced that.
Yeah. That's where God keeps taking me to.
Yeah.
So as I love that you focus a lot on the 40 plus ladies.
Mhm.
But what do you say to the younger generation when you do get clients that are in their teens or 20s or even early 30s? Like how, because now you have so much wisdom and knowledge, but
Yeah.
how do you approach kind of that proactive approach to even the younger generation?
I applaud the commitment in our youth. I think it is the time to seek. It's the time to explore. It is the time to search and evaluate what you like, what works for you. That's the time in life. I won't go into teens because there's actually a study about teens using anti-aging cream and the detriment that it has. So let's start with the 20s and maybe early 30s, but all the 20s. That's your time to do all of the seeking and maximize your health, challenge your body within moderation, within the confines of wisdom. Do all of the things. So that's number one. You've got the energy of youth. You've got the vibrance of youth that you can put into your body, your care, your thinking, your well-being, your holistic living. Within that framework, I also say slow down.
Mm.
Give give room now in that chapter of life, the gift of grace. Because if we don't insert grace while we're moving and challenging and doing all the things, trying all the products, trying all the exercises, buying all of the, the different, buying the equipment, doing all of that, if within that we don't practice grace, patience, and slowing down, as the body starts changing mid 30s, and again, this is just a generality because we're all so different, but based on decades of aging, once the body starts changing in the mid 30s, or after you've had a child, or if you're on that edge 38, 39 mark, getting ready to cross over into 40, you are going to be a wreck. And because this culture is all about, like fitness culture is all about go home, go hard, change your mind, change your life, has an element of truth. But there is no room for error.
Mm.
And there is a shadow and a hint of being critical about the body. Because if something is not working, it's truly because you're doing something wrong, or you're not doing enough of something. When you start hitting those new rites of passage in life, it will trip you up. When you're doing all the things that you've been taught to do or that you've gravitated to, and you reach that median where it's not working, no matter how hard you're working out, no matter how clean you're trying to eat, you're not losing weight, And there's been no space and no room for grace and patience and trial and error and slowing down and getting to learn yourself. It will take you on a mental trip. And as women, as females, the way that we are wired, the way that we're made up, the way that we inherently think, we're going to turn the focus on ourselves. What am I not doing? What is wrong with my body? Why do I feel like an out of order machine? And it will spiral you if we're not careful.
Yeah, that's really good. What are some of your biggest things that you are approaching wellness different as you are? I mean, girl, I feel like you are aging so beautifully. Age is such a different thing now because when
It
you
is.
age, I'm just like, oh my God, you still look like you did when you were 25, but okay.
Thank you, Kim. Thank
How do you feel as you approach kind of, as you're a different age, a different space in life,
you.
doing things differently? What are some of kind of your biggest key, I don't know, things that you're modifying in this season of your life, I guess?
I am entering my last year in my 40s. I will be 49 this year.
Wow.
Which even to me is crazy because I absolutely keep my inner child alive. Lashanna is the professional. She's the woman. She's the leader. She's all the forefront things. But Shan is the little girl. She's the girl that still lives and thrives in me. And I think that as I am aging, and my goal is to age well, that it becomes necessary for me to keep my inner child alive, that I still find some sense of innocence, not in terms of being ignorant, but that I still find an innocence in my life where I'm not so learned, I'm not so knowledgeable that I can't go, wow. Oh, I
Yeah.
think that's a big part of the way that I want to age well. And I am trying to be a lot more gracious with myself because at this point, a lot of life has happened. I have, trauma has happened, loss has happened, devastation has happened. All of the dark elements of life that we pray, we don't experience have come to my front door. And I am trying to lean into my prayer of being a holistic being, a well living organism
Mm-hmm.
throughout those things. How am I going to frame the way I think? And I may not do it the same every morning because I may have gone to bed with something on my mind. How am I going to approach just today? So going back to the word again, just this day, my daily bread, just this one, space, grace, girlishness, wanting to still be wowed. I don't want to be looked at as an expert or a guru. I've got too much life left to live, and I've got too much more to learn. But to be excellent in something, I will receive that. I can be excellent in something. I've given myself a lot of space and grace with nutrition because as a practitioner, 15 years being in this field meaning health, wellness, functional medicine, natural medicine, alternative therapies of healing, the industry has changed a lot. And I've had to reframe a lot of what I thought was the guideline. So I have given myself grace in keeping a framework of nutrition, but allowing myself to enjoy essentially what I want within reason and within what my mind knows. Because once you're stretched to know things, you can't return back to it. Doesn't return back to its original shape or its original habit. It's things like that, Kim. It's giving it space to look different if it forms differently, but just maintaining my core value of health and well-being. So I keep that and I throw it into a little bit of everything. And I talk myself through, do we need that today? Should we have this? Do we need to add this today? What do we need to change? What do we need to tweak? And that's why it's just one day at a time.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite things you told me years ago, about eating whatever your body is desiring at any given time. Like at one point you were a vegan and you know, tried several different things, but now just giving your body what it needs and what it's calling for each day. And that is so good because like
moving the labels.
Yes, because the world will just make you want to try, like, let me try this because this is what's happening. And you just kind of give back to just whatever your body is calling for that day. And your body will tell you when you have done something you weren't supposed to, or, or if it's needing something. You just have to, yeah. I love that you the other day on your podcast you did that reading where you read the book.
Oh yes, the adult story time.
Yes, it was so special because my baby girl Aubrey, that's all she wants to do right now is watch YouTubes where people are reading. So that's like a very popular thing with the little ones right now. And so when you did that, I was like, that was so special to me. It was kind of like that childlike moment. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I just thought about it one day because there's a lot going on in our world, and I don't believe that we'll ever return to a state of normalcy as we knew it, be it our personal world, the world around us, we as a people collectively. It's a different kind of world now, and we are having to find kind of equilibrium. And so it came to me one day while I was just sitting. I try to have these moments where I'm just still and quiet. And adult story time reading came to me as another avenue, just another tool in your wellness equipment belt of things that we can do to bring our bodies back into homeostasis, a sense of peace and settling, and also to pull our minds back in and to create another element of joy and calm and relaxation. Yeah. So I said that I would, kind of start integrating it here and there.
Please do it. We love it.
Oh, I will. I'll do that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Now, how do you navigate wellness or health and wellness or nutrition or whatever it looks like in your home with a spouse? Like, do you have a spouse that's on board with that, or like I know the men folk be doing the men folk thing sometimes, but how do you navigate marriage and health and
wellness? My husband, people think because this is my lifestyle and my life and my vocation that I'm very regimented. My husband is the one that's vigilant. Like I have to remind him to give himself grace, to ease up, to be okay with veering from the regimen because he's very disciplined. If he's going to do something, he does it. And that may be a different testament from other husbands. Gene lives a fairly disciplined life as if he could have been in the military. If he's going to do 2-week fast of X, Y, and Z, he's doing it. If he's cutting out meat on Mondays, he's doing it. If he also, because Gene has, here's another reason why I think he's very militant about it, is because he has environmental allergies. It is very, 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 very bad. The ENT has constantly suggested that we relocate. Houston is just not a friendly city for him at all. And because his career, he is as a singer, the way that it affects him and impacts his health, I think that's the other reason why he's very, very vigilant. So for us in this household, it is the friendship part of us allows us to introduce new things to each other. That's the fun part of it. But as a woman who understands the journey of wellness, I try to be an encouraging voice to him, reminding him that it's okay. You had some wheat today. You had some soy. I tell you, when he's vigilant, he's vigilant. Oh, that got soy in it. That's got this in it. That's got. And I'm like, well, man, you make me feel like I ain't doing right. So just kind of, I'm a voice of grace and ease and forgiveness, self-forgiveness, that kind of thing. That's really kind of how it works in this household because he's got extenuating circumstances.
Wow, I would have never thought that, but that kind of works out.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. Kim, I went and bought some Popeye's chicken one day. And Popeye's is something that I do every now and then. So I bring the chicken home. I'm sitting in the living room eating. And Jean said, I wish I could eat some Popeye's chicken. I'm like, you can if you allow yourself. And this is, again, grace is just a repetitive term. It's a word that God gave me in 2019, actually, to start studying. And ever since then, I've not let it go, because 2020 is when I ended up losing mom. So just the study of the vastness of grace started with me then. But I think that's where we need grace within the industry, because the industry is so extreme that anything you do wrong, anything you fail at, you do wrong, your body is not responding to, you didn't respond to, you didn't do what the trainer said, you didn't follow the 20-day this, the 21-day this, you didn't get the instructions for that. You see how it's always pointing toward us?
Yeah.
There's so much shame. We don't feel, as a culture, we don't feel comfortable going out with our girlfriends and ordering what we want without giving a disclaimer. Or we are so extreme, and there's a phobia now that has been clinically tied to the extremity of it, that if one of our girlfriends at the table orders something that we feel is inappropriate, we are casting judgment or shame or critiquing. We don't realize oftentimes how shame creeps into the innocent attempt to do a good thing. And so the grace component becomes even more necessary. I don't like the food labeling, because if my body should go through a season of change where I need the fat and the calcium of dairy, and it doesn't do me any harm, I'm not lactose intolerant or allergic to it, everything within your own context, then I need to be able to give myself grace to flexibly add whole fat yogurt. Now, if while doing that, my body indicates to me that it rejects it, I need to examine and investigate why. It may not necessarily mean, oh, that's bad, bad, bad. It may mean, okay, what's going on in my body that's causing me to reject this? Do I need to investigate the rejection so that I can put in protocols so my body will embrace the dairy? Or is my body just saying, nope, don't like it, don't want it, this is not for us, pivot? When you talk about living well, honey, it's all of these things. And so, if you need to switch from a food group, or if you need to switch from a way of eating, it should all be even playing field. If I need to do Mediterranean, or if I need vegan, or if I want to do vegan for a day, or vegetarian, or paleo, or just all of the things, I need openness to allow myself to navigate in that.
Yeah, that's really good. And that's what it comes down to. Like, the extremes is where we fall short on either side of that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's really good. I would love for you to talk about your community that you are building, that I'm so excited to be a part of.
Yes, I'm so glad. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Of course. Talk about like how that came to you, and kind of what you envision for that group.
Yes. So the platform, it's a multi-network platform. It's called the Best of Wellness, an insider community for women. And again, the term wellness, once you get in there, you're still building it out. But once you get in there, you're going to see a conglomerate of things, because wellness is in everything. So it is for our women. There were all women, and there will always be an emphasis for Black women, because that's a drive of mine, but it's open to all women. And the impetus behind it was twofold. Number one, I have a like-dislike relationship with social media, period.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm an advocate. I'm a person that pushes against systems that are not necessarily in the complete best interest of everyone. And so when we think about how a lot of these platforms manipulate us psychologically, emotionally, how it has literally defined the way we move, the way we think, the way we associate, I wanted to kind of pull back from that and create a platform that was filled with a lot of lush goodness and growth. And I'm going to use this term loosely as well: positivity, affirmation, sisterhood in every aspect of our lives that we needed. I wanted it to offer resources, actual resources that you can use. No gatekeeping. Now there's a fee that you can pay for certain rooms, and that's merely to support me as a business owner. But there's no gatekeeping in that. Oh, I'm going to make you go down this entire funnel of things in order to get this nugget, this gem, this piece of information that will help move your life, your business forward. And so that's the purpose of the Best of Wellness.
I love it. I'm enjoying it so far.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to be adding some other contributors to the platform. And that's one of my drives outside of the film. That's my other drive for this year, is to spend time building community. That was one of the instructions that God gave me for my 2025, was connecting, building community, and just really tilling that ground. This is a time of community, and it looks different for everybody.
Yeah, but it's so necessary. Like, everybody's crying out for community in so many ways, whether they know it or whether they vocalize it or not. But I'm seeing it and hearing it. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a question, because you mentioned it a couple of times. Like, when God gives you things, and I know it's personal, so obviously it'll be different for everybody, but does he give you just like ideas and then you build from there? Or does he give you specific, like, how does he lead you with all the things you got going on? Because you do a lot of things, but how do you receive leading from God in what you're supposed to be doing at any given point?
Yeah, I consider myself as a polymath, in that there is not just one particular niche, not just that I love, but that God has called me to, which means that it intersects with actually doing work, creating work. And so it changes. There are times where God will give me verbatim what he wants me to do, how he wants it to be presented, how he wants me to roll it out, what type of marketing I should use, what marketing I shouldn't or don't have to lean on to use, what he wants the end game to be, what the mission of it is. And then there are times where he will give me a concept and allow me to use the skills that he's given me to create and to build and to structure it. And I have the focus, and I have the parameters of which that is to be done. And then there are times that it's not audible, it's not instructional. I just did a podcast called I called it a digital spiritual dump. This is where I am. And you know how we dump on Instagram, we give a series of just random things of what we've been doing in our lives. And so that's what this episode was about. And it was dedicated to the person who, when you're at a spiritual place where God is not saying, all right, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 and 6. Now then 7, 8, because 9, and then I want you to do 10. We want that. Like, we all want it. Let's give it to me the way you want it. But there are times in our spiritual depth when you're out in deeper waters and the tide is changing and there is no floor, because the density of the water doesn't allow you to reach a ground that depth, that he gives you strong pullings, leadings, drawings. You can't get away from it. You can't outthink it. You can't shift the concept. It sits heavily in the pit of your stomach, and you just have a no. You know that this is what you need to focus on. You know that this is what he wants you to drive forward. There are moments that happens. And when it's that kind of leading, I'm more careful and cautious because I want to handle that kind of trust with a little bit more wisdom and fragility. But as I do find, Kim, that as I move on it and I continue to move on it, just like a locomotor, it starts to build its own momentum, and then the courage starts to build, and then the security starts to build. So it really just changes from one assignment to another.
Mm.
But it's usually those three avenues.
Thank you for sharing that. I loved your last podcast, by the way.
Oh, you heard it.
Great. I'm subscribed, honey. Right when it dropped,
Oh,
I'm in there.
thank you.
I loved it though, because
Yeah.
you always speak to like where I am, and you're further along. So it's like I'm leaning from your
Mm,
wisdom, but you always speak to just where I find myself, just like my heart
mm.
posture, and I
Wow.
just that's why I'm like you are it for me in terms of health
Oh,
and
yeah.
wellness and holistic approach to living as a woman and a Black woman. Like you do it for
Yeah.
me every time.
Thank you, sis.
You
Thank
are so welcome. Can you talk about the movie? Are you speaking about that yet, or what
you.
can you say?
Yes, this is the second focus of 2025. This is my second film, so I'm producing a film, you all, and it's called Project Woman 2025. It's really our response, our being women, our response to Project 2025. And during this time, we've shifted administration. We've got the 92% culture that has declared rest. We have the other aspect. We have our counterparts that are figuring out how they're navigating. Everybody's trying to figure out how they're needing to maneuver. Every cultural group, every socioeconomical group. Well, as someone who is deep in social justice and advocacy and just equity for the woman, I here was that nudge. This is the category 3, that nudge, that pull, that push, that it was time to do another film and to create our not just call to rest, but our call to restoring and our call to respond. How do we respond during this time where every day it feels like something is shifting, something is changing, something is being removed from us, an executive order is being signed and assigned. What do we do? And while we don't know everything that's ahead of time, I have some voices, some very prevalent voices that are going to help us navigate this time. And of course, we create this cinematic experience surrounding it because it is a visual way of learning, but it is basically a voice for women and how to approach your womanhood and everything that is contained in your womanhood, how you can move to bring joy, to bring peace, to exhale, and to bring some sense of security in your
Mm.
life.
Well, I can't wait. Your last film was phenomenal.
Yay.
So I cannot wait for
Thank
the next
you.
one.
Yeah, this is going to be good. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and when is it? When do you think it's going to be out?
So we're in pre-production. We actually start filming next month. Man, March next month.
I know.
This is the first quarter of the year is getting out of here.
I feel like I just want to start second quarter. I don't know.
Push. I know. So yeah, we start filming next month in March, and it will be released in the summertime this summer. So we'll
Nice.
have for those of you who are local, you'll be welcomed to attend the screening. It's gonna be good.
I cannot wait.
Yes.
It was something else I was going to ask you about. Are you excited about? I know you probably are, but are you excited about turning 50? Like, are you doing something big, and are you traveling? Like, what do you want to do?
I am. Shan is gonna be 50. What?
Girl,
So
and
first of
good,
all,
feeling good, all the things.
thank you. First of all, I'm going to do something for 49. Now, I need to hurry up and figure that out because my birthday is in May. But I want to do something just as an offering of telling my 40s thank you. Thank you for being such a great learning curve, for really helping me. If y'all haven't hit 40 yet, let me set it up for you.
Set it up, please.
You're going to love it. You are going to love navigating 40s, it's going to bring such a wealth of freedom and liberation and really like knowing who you are. And when I say knowing who you are, being able to describe yourself apart from what you do. Nothing about what you do has anything to do about who you are. And when you can really hit that rock, that raw expression of knowing your existence, it changes everything. Relationship, how you approach your perspective, what you say yes to, what you say no to, even the way you feel about saying no. 40 is pivotal.
Mm.
And you come into a new sense of womanhood, your sexuality as a woman. And if you are a spouse, there is a raised sense of sexuality in your role as a spouse. It's all the things.
Mm.
And yes, you'll navigate the uncertainties and the unknowns, but such is life. Baby, 40 is it. So I am going to celebrate 49 as an offering of saying thank you for this decade. And I absolutely have to celebrate 50. Don't know how yet, but
Yeah.
yeah, something's going down.
I love it. Listen, I turned 40 this year and I am so excited.
Ah, Kim,
I am so excited.
yes! Come
Like,
on, yes.
I get it even now. Like I feel like I'm just coming to know who I am.
Yeah,
Totally see why people say that about 40.
yes.
I mean, your 20s is kind of a blur and it's fun and you do
Yeah.
a lot of fun things, and 30s is kind of like a stumbling through and you're
Mhm.
figuring out. But it's like, yeah, I could see why 40s is where it's at. And
It
then 50, it
is.
just goes up from there. If you're in
Right.
good health and you have your mind, like I could just see how every year gets better and
Yeah.
better.
And you're in a really good place too to really elevate your 40s experience because um, from us looking outside, looking into your life, you seem to have a good fundamental sense of your womanhood, your being a wife, you're being a mother, you're being a woman of faith, a child of God, a grip on the things that you want to do in life. You may not have all of the steps that are needed, but you seem like you have a really good sense of fundamentals, and that is very important because it will elevate. You will feel more so like you're learning as you go and not trying to catch up and follow along the way of 40s. You will feel like you're in the momentum that you should be, mistakes and all, and moving forward the way that you should be moving forward. So I'm excited for you.
Well, girl, I received that, and I
Yeah.
take your words very, very like
Mm.
it is here. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I don't know, but I do agree with you. Like I do have a settling that has come over me
Hmm.
last year or so, just of knowing who God is. I think is more than
Right.
anything.
That's a big part
It
of
brings me a calm.
it. When is your birthday, if I can ask?
August 26th.
Okay. Yeah, so you got a few months
Yeah.
leading to. Are you going to do anything for your 40th?
I am. So I have like a whole little weekend planned. I want to do like a wellness overnight stay with my
Ah,
girl Friday night, like at an Airbnb, and then Saturday I want to do some type of party,
yeah,
like something fun, and then
do
Sunday
it.
maybe just like me and my hubby will do something. That's my plan.
Yes. Okay. Come on, 3 day. Yeah, do it. You deserve it. It's a milestone
Yeah,
not to be ignored.
yeah. I'm looking for. I don't know what it means to not like. I don't know. I don't get the concept of people like not being excited or scared
Mm-hmm.
or. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
understand that. Like I'm so grateful to
Mm-hmm.
be here and be in my right mind, and so I am
Listen.
excited.
I'm telling you, it's a blessing to age, but
Yeah.
we're living in an anti-age society. Everything, and especially as women, women get we accept men as they are essentially. I mean, their bodies can change, they can switch on and off of what they want to do, they can change careers, they can do all the things, and we're, you know, inherently accepting of that. But women go through so much,
Yeah.
so many changes. The minute our bodies change, the minute you see a line or a wrinkle, the minute your hair thins, or all of the different things. And so I think we're also reshaping the idea of aging, which is great because it's a
Mm-hmm.
blessing to get older.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I am so glad I got you and this worked out with all of our little technical issues that we were able to make this work. And we didn't even get to talk about perimenopause or any of that stuff. But y'all, please go to Lashanna's podcast and get all the things. Like if you are not following Lashanna, please follow her because your podcast is a wealth of knowledge,
Oh,
especially
thank
for that era of life. So tell
you.
everybody how they can find you. And if, as you kind of share all of your information, can you just share a little bit about your Bible study? That way, anybody who wants to
Oh,
join, they'll know
man.
how to kind of tap into
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely, yes. So I would just let me lead you to my website first because you can really find everything in that hub, LaShannaMoore.com, and it's Lashanna with two N's. The podcast is on there, updates, events that I'm having is up there, getting to know me. I've moved into wellness space within the real estate industry in terms of holistic staging, designing, and construction. So that information is on there. And then, as Kim was mentioning, my Bible study, I'm launching in person. I did a soft launch last year, but this is our official launching called Abiding, and it's for women. It's predominantly for women of faith, but it's open to all women, whether you are curious, whether you were once a Christian, whether you are atheist, whether you're not really sure of how this world works and this religious thing works. It's available to all women. And I do take a holistic approach to studying the Bible. So for Black women, there is a representation so that we can see ourselves and restore our Blackness through the book that is called the Word of God, the Bible. And we have our first meeting February the 22nd. They're going to be on Saturday mornings from 10 to 11:15 a.m., just an hour and 15 minutes. So
Nice. Well,
join
I will
us.
be there. I cannot wait. And are you doing it once a
Awesome.
month?
Say it again.
Doing once a month, or as you?
Yes. So February, I think, is the fourth Saturday, but it will be the third Saturday morning of every month, different locations, in person or virtual. So if you join the Best of Wellness and you're not in person, you'll be able to see it live. You can join us virtually live. But yeah, we're going to keep it going. Oh, Kim, it's going to be so good. I just can't wait.
I'm so
Y'all
excited.
wait.
I am excited. Well, thank you for coming on, and I will make sure to tag all of I will tag your website where you can get all of your information. So
Okay.
I know y'all enjoyed this
Yes.
episode. So bye, girls. Bye.